Come on out here. We're going to go see my buddy Dan in his
What's up,
studio.
guys? Welcome. Welcome to Brick City Artworks.
So, Dan, what first inspired you to take your artwork to the streets? Because you do a lot of graffiti and street art.
So a lot of my early inspiration came from just seeing street art in my travels for work. I spent a lot of years traveling the country, running national construction companies, and one of my hobbies became finding and following and photographing street art. So that's kind of my early encouragement to want to create my own. You spend enough time taking pictures of and looking at certain things, it makes you kind of want to create them, I think.
Yeah. How do you define the difference between graffiti and street art?
It's a really fine line. Typically, graffiti is works that are put up in places that it technically shouldn't be. Illegal places, businesses, city walls, whatever it may be. Whereas street art is typically done in places where you have an approval, where it's an okay thing. So the work can be nearly identical, but the placement makes the biggest difference, I think, in my opinion, between graffiti and street art.
Okay. I know your studio's name is Brick City. What's the story behind the artist name or tag or your studio name?
So with the studio, Brick City just originates from the town I spent a lot of my life growing up in Huber Heights, Ohio. We were the largest brick home community in the country, so a lot of things go back to that Brick City moniker. I use kind of two different people sometimes. I'm Brick City Dan, in relation to the gallery and the things that we do for the community and a lot of our events and that side. And at the same time, I'm also Dan Wells Art because I like to stretch beyond just putting my names on walls and create, high-end abstract works. So I kind of have the best of two worlds in that extent.
Okay. How do you choose a location for your artwork, and how does the environment around it influence you?
So a lot of my artwork placement, especially I guess more so as I've gotten a little bit older and I've become more of a public figure, I obviously don't want to be that guy, and I encourage other people to be the same way, that's out putting work in places that were damaging somebody's property. So a lot of times what I like to look for is defunct, abandoned structures that you're really not going to hurt anything by putting your paint on, or the other kind of go-to is city walls that feel neglected. So, you get into some of these urban and inner city areas and you see a lot of, you find a lot of neglect and just, nasty spaces. And I think, whether the city agrees or not, in my opinion, we go in and we kind of clean that up and beautify it, right? Like, it's putting art in place of trash sometimes. So, but we do try and, it may not still always be 100% pre-approved and okay, but we're trying to present it in ways that it's, not hurting somebody when we do it.
Okay. I notice a lot of spray paint over here in your studio. What kind of materials are essential to your work?
So with the street art, spray paint is definitely by far the most essential to my work. But as I've really graduated and grown more into fine art abstract painter, that's changed a little bit. In the early stages, I was using a lot of spray paint still on my canvases, and it played into a lot of my work. But as my work has grown, I've needed to switch to more higher quality paints like the Goldens and the good primers and things that are actually going to last long term for somebody. But the spray paint wall still is a huge piece of that because it's kind of like my large color wheel. I have just hundreds of different colors, and if I'm thinking about an orange and that's what I want to do, I can go to my spray paint wall and find a cool color and then try and mix my golden colors to become similar to that. So even beyond what I do on the street, what I do as an abstract artist, that's my biggest inspiration for color.
Okay. How do you balance artistic freedom with the constraints of working in public spaces?
I guess that's difficult. But at the same time, I don't really mind being seen publicly. So, actually, I really kind of like it. So, I think in this current state that we're in now, we're kind of wanting to be seen more public, and we're wanting to change the culture and take away some of the negative stigmas and attachments that are on graffiti and push it more towards street art because it's becoming more widely accepted. So I think Whereas there was a point in life where we tried to hide from, or at least myself personally tried to hide from the public with what we do. Now we're, kind of trying to be seen by the public. We want to create that edge and soften up some neighborhoods, or, just create cool artwork. Um, yeah.
Okay. What's your creative process for creating a mural from initial sketch to final?
So murals are fun. A lot of times my murals that I do are inspired by current events and or just personal feelings. I don't do tons of commissioned murals. So with that, a lot of the murals I create just off of self-want. I just find that there's an issue that's maybe been weighing on my head, and I want to take that and create a piece of artwork that then has a message behind it. So it'll make you think, whether it's related to alcoholism or depression, or whether it's in a positive vibe and it's trying to spread community awareness, or whatever it may be. I like to create things that inspire people to think. So typically I already have a subject that I'm falling back to with what I want to make. So at that point, a lot of times I'll do a rough sketch on paper first, and then I'll take that and transfer that into a digital form and sketch it into the computer. And then once I have that computer form, a lot of times then I can digitize, because there's a couple of ways that my work transfers from that prep stage to a wall. And a lot of times that's through just basic software. I can take and have a digital sketched image and then take a picture of the wall I'm thinking about putting it on and overlay my images together. So now I have like this reference point that kind of helps guide me through what I'm going to put on the wall. And for me personally, I think, beyond needing the idea from that picture, because the idea has already been created, it really helps me just keep scale and transfer what my thought was to the physical surface.
Okay, cool. You kind of just touched on this at the beginning of your answer here, but what emotions or messages are you trying to convey, and how do you want the public to react?
Like I said, so I think that does vary per piece that I'm creating. So, the biggest thing is I just want people to have to think about the work, and I don't like to tell people what to think. And that transfers all the way from my street art side of my works all the way to my fine art abstracts, because with all of my fine art abstracts and different series that I've done, I never actually define where the top is on my pieces. Most of the pieces I create are actually built with mounting hardware to be mounted on anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 different directions. And I don't put a physical signature on the canvas, I put a signature on the frame. So therefore, it's up to the person that's actually, buying and taking that art from me to determine how it fits best for them. So it's, once again, it goes back to that, like I want them to see, something, and I want them to feel something from it, and then kind of, just, form their own thing from that point and say, hey, this is what I see, or this is what I like, or how I'm feeling about it right now.
Okay. What's the most interesting, positive or negative response you've had from a passerby?
I got a quick one for that. This one's easy because this one will never leave my brain. But it was the first time I was doing a mural here in the city of Dayton, and it was in conjunction with Front Street, the first at least official mural in the city. And we were doing it with the Levitt Pavilion. So it's when we did the big music piece during Art in the City a few years ago. And I just remember that when I was working on that wall, I was kind of just super zoned in. It was really hot that day, just pouring out sweat, not paying attention to anything. And I stepped back from the wall and took a break and turned around. And when I turned around, there was one of these guys with a microphone off of his head, a note sheet, and a whole group of like 25 people behind him that he's giving a tour through the city. And every one of them was staring at me work. And instantly I just froze. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not the star of the show. I'm just some guy throwing paint at the wall right now. So it was just an interesting, kind of feel from that extent. So, and it was super positive. All the people were really happy to see it. And it was obviously super positive energy, but at the same time, it was just that first like super awkward, like, oh, holy crap, they're all watching me. So that was fun.
How has your style evolved since you first started creating?
So it's really changed a lot. Like a lot of my early stuff, I was really busy. There was a lot of motion, there was a lot of texture, there was just a lot that was in the work. And I felt like maybe I was asking you to look a lot deeper into it, and it took a lot more concentration to read it. And the more I've gone along, the more simplistic I've actually made the work. Even all the way to my most recent series, Colorful Evocations was the name of the series. It was truly 100% just about color field works, meaning that they were just solid one-off colors that I had created for each individual piece. They got used one time in trash, but the intent behind that is that I feel like there's just as much to be taken from the work as the one that had a ton of stuff inside the borders, so to say. But you're kind of drawing more from the energy of the colors at that point. So I guess it becomes more so non-objectional work, and I feel like it's, even though there's less there, there's more there because it can appeal to more people.
Okay. And how do you deal with the nature of your art if it's painted over or damaged?
That's not something that typically bugs me. In the street art world, uh, that's something that's expected. So, sometimes it can be tough to erase something that's really cool, or to know that something of yours has been erased. But you kind of learn that as long as it's had a couple of days to breathe, or a couple of weeks, or a couple of months, it's not really a big deal that somebody covers it up, because, the artwork always needs to evolve, and that just encourages you to go do something else. So typically I deal pretty well with that.
Okay, cool. What's the experience with transitioning from illegal, illicit work to commissioned public art or gallery work?
It's interesting. Early stages, I would have argued with myself frequently, like, am I an artist, or what type of artist am I, or what's the intent here? Is this an awkward feel, or should I be doing this? And the longer I've gone into it, it's more comfortable. You start realizing that people are appreciating the works, and that people really do like it. And so, that negativity is kind of drawn away from it. But it's a unique feeling.
Okay. And what are your ultimate career goals, and how do you manage to work on the street?
Yeah. So long-term career goals are really something that I'm working a lot on lately, is trying to get into larger cities and larger markets that fit a little bit more of the abstract work. I've found with my style and body of work that the smaller the community I'm in, the more traditional that community is. And so the type of work that those people are into falls more into a traditional type of role. Whereas as I get into the larger, more modern cities, then I find a much better fit for my work. There's more modern homes, you have larger walls, larger places. So long term, I'd really like to be shown in New York and LA and Miami and really big cities. And so recently we've broke into the New York market, and hopefully we'll continue to move there. But I feed off of the energy of the cities that I'm in. I think that's what drives me as an individual, and I pull a lot of energy from that. So I think it's on both sides, it's a great fit. My work fits there, and I fit there equally. So we kind of play well together.
Okay, and what's one piece you're most proud of, and why?
Most proud of? I guess that's a really good question. As an individual piece, I think one of my most proud pieces would have to be, it's not actually alive anymore. I think one of the ones that made me the happiest in the biggest picture was a mural that I did here at Front Street some years back that encompassed a brain and a liquor bottle, and a man that was in the liquor bottle with his arm up asking for help, but maybe not realizing that it was there. And it was kind of this envisionment of a man that was dealing with mental health struggles and dealing with alcoholism. And there were all these hands that were above him that were reaching down to help him. And he wasn't able to necessarily understand that help was there, or those people were there, because he was stuck in that cycle of mental health, depression, and alcoholism. And so for me, it was a piece that really spoke to a lot of people and brought a lot of feelings out of people and made them think. And it was kind of that, don't forget that men also have mental health issues, because it's quite commonly overlooked. And so that just the statement that came from that, and the emotion that came from that, and all the people that personally told me they were touched by the work, I think that's probably one that I was most proud of, because that's really what I want the work to do, is to touch people and make them think, and really push them to places that maybe they wouldn't have been if they hadn't seen it.
And what's the next challenge you hope to tackle with your art?
The next big challenge is a fun one. I haven't talked about it a lot, but I'm actually working on a project where we want to take the works that I'm creating now and actually remove the color from them and then bring it back through digital projection. So it's a really fun idea that we've been playing with for a while, but I love this concept of walking into a gallery and you see all of my work that like fits these crazy shapes and whatever, but they're all just blank white canvases. For some reason, I have this feeling of I'd love people to walk in and think, well, what the heck is this show? None of this work is anything. It's all just plain. And then suddenly, for lack of a better way to say it, at the flip of a switch, it all looks like finished artwork. And so it's something that we've been practicing and playing with. But like that, as far as bodies of work, I think that's something really fun and unique that we'd like to try. As far as advancement of work, it's really just breaking in to the larger markets and breaking into places like I said, New York and LA or Miami or wherever it may be. So right now we're working on New York. Hopefully that'll work out and then see where we can go from there.
Okay. Well, in closing, do you want to tell folks how to get to
Yeah.
your studio?
Absolutely. We're at Front Street Arts District here in Dayton, Ohio. It's one of, if not the largest arts district in the state. It's an amazing place with amazing artists. So you come to Front Street, you find us. There's signage outside that'll take you straight to the studio. We're here most days of the week. We can be reached through Brick City Artworks on any of the social media platforms or through Google directly linked to us. And we do First Friday shows. We do a lot of really fun stuff. So the best thing you can do is follow us at Brick City Artworks on any platform. From there, you'll see the events we're doing, and anybody's welcome at any time. So just come on down to Front Street and check us out.
Okay.